Hey, everybody. Turnover City with Florida State and Duke. And is Oregon really good or is Purdue really bad? It's all coming up next on the College Football Show. And thanks so much for coming in, everybody. This is the College Football Show Friday night edition. My name's John D'Adamo, and I'm going to take you through the next at least hour. And we'll talk about that in just a bit. You can follow me on Twix at John D'Adamo. You may know me from hosting the Michigan Wolverines live show every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Michigan channel. And then tomorrow, after the Michigan-Illinois game, I'll be hosting the Michigan post-game live show. Do want to encourage everybody to like this video, subscribe, and tell everybody. Send the YouTube link out to everybody. We want this thing blowing up. We want everybody who's calling in to get exposure. We want this to really become the place that people go on Friday night after these Friday night games to really talk about it. And before we get started with topics, we do want to remind everybody that Mark wrote a book. He is not with us tonight because he is out of town this weekend. He is going to rely on some of his other hosts to carry the load here. So you'll see some faces that you may know from other shows. But Mark did write a book. It's called Undisputed National Champions. It's on Amazon, and I do recommend everybody check it out. I'll be getting my copy as well here in a little bit, and we'll just support Mark Rogers, voice of college football, that way. We've got a couple of commentary here already, and I am going to favor anybody who's a member. They get highlighted. Anybody who super chats, they get highlighted. Jackson Johnson's a member. What up, voice of college football nation? How are you doing tonight? I am great. Let's see, any other members here. We got Jim, FSU-Purdue. Who you got? I've got FSU winning that game by 7 if they matched up. And then thank you very much for that encouragement. And yes, thank you, Jackson. Jackson's helping us out by putting the link right here. We've come up with some short links for you because the main one is like 5 million characters long, so we want to help out there. So we've got a couple of things to cover tonight before we get to calls. I do want to remind everybody that if you want this show to continue for a second hour, a third hour, etc., we're going to ask you for some money, okay? Straight up. This first hour from now till about, 12:15 a.m. Eastern, that's on the house. That happens no matter what. If you want a second hour, it's $100. It can be a super chat. It can be a super sticker. It can be a membership. It can be a membership gift. But if you want this thing to keep rolling all night, that's what we're going to ask for in return. And it's right there on the screen. So we will count down as we get super chats, as we get memberships, and we'll just go from there. With all that said, let's start with the Duke game. So this game, obviously, when you actually look at the stats, it looks deceptive, right? Because both, neither one lit it up. We had Florida State with 129 receiving yards, Duke with 70. The actual game itself, I thought Duke did a really good job with the turnover battle, right? A great interception, pick 6 in the beginning of the game. Malik Murphy, while not amazing, had some crisp throws at times. And with the turnover battle being what it was, with 2 fumbles as well as 2 interceptions that Florida State got picked off, the quarterback uncertainty there, obviously with DJU being out, he is sorely missed right now because Brock Glenn 9 for 19, 2 interceptions. He was the passing leader of the entire game for both teams with 110 passing yards. This sounds familiar. Wait a minute. This sounds like Michigan versus Big Ten teams. How about that? And then also Cromenhook, or however the hell you say that. 19 yards, 3 for 7, not good. Malik Murphy, not great either, 50%, 70. But what really won them the game, you've got to give Duke a lot of credit for their defense. You got to give them a lot of credit for the turnover battle. They're a well-coached team. They don't make a ton of mistakes. And even though they didn't play their best football today, they still come off with a win. I will say this though about that. Florida State's in trouble because it's looking more and more likely like they're not even going to make a bowl. They will need pretty much everything to go their way to even get to 5-7, which isn't guaranteeing them a bowl at all. I think 6-6 is completely ridiculous and unrealistic at this point. 7, yeah, I think you're looking at absolute rosiest scenario, 5-7. So with that said, if you want to talk about Duke FSU, you can call the show to talk Duke FSU. If you want to talk about this other game that happened, this is another game that happened. So Oregon 35, Purdue 0. So this game, I focus more on, right? Obviously, I wanted to see how Oregon fared because I was talking with Erica Goldberg before the show. We were talking about earlier today about this, and I said one of two things is going to happen. Either Oregon is going to blow Purdue out, and it's going to be a talent mismatch all over the field, or the alternative option, and DaReal, who's waiting in line, is going to like this. The alternative option is a Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes-style game where they sleepwalk through 3 quarters, and then in the 4th quarter, Patrick Mahomes does some crazy stuff to take the lead, and they win the game by like 7 points when they really should have won by this many. That's another thing that could have happened, right? I did not see any scenario that Purdue was winning the game. It was either Oregon sleeps and then turns on the Jets, or Oregon does what they did in this game. And I have to say that Ryan Walters' coaching is some of the shittiest coaching I've ever seen in my entire life. Pardon my French. No excuse for not having an answer for Hudson Card going down. No excuse for not having a kicker who can kick the ball 36 yards. And the he's focusing on the offense now. Well, let's see how that went. Wait, 0 points. So let's look at some of what we saw. We did see a couple of flashes from some of the runners. So we saw obviously Reggie Love and Maccabee had some decent runs for Purdue, and Ryan Brown is not a bad quarterback. I know. I'm saying that, acknowledging what happened here. He's not a bad quarterback. He's not the worst in the Big Ten, in my opinion. He might be 3rd or 4th worst. He's not the worst. Don't ask me to come up with a worse one off the top of my head. But I don't think he's the worst quarterback ever. I think he's not getting a lot of help. I also think that Oregon defended extremely well today. They executed at a very high level. And if you look at the Oregon side of the ball, it was beautiful. I really liked Sadiq. So Sadiq had 58 yards, 2 carries in the receiving game. What I liked about Sadiq's play is that he did a great job of getting some separation there. Obviously, we saw some stuff from Evan Stewart that I liked. We saw some stuff from, obviously at one point they were at 10.8 yards per play, so they were doing very well. They were making great plays happen. But here is what makes me think that this Oregon team is going to go far. You can't really take much from a victory against a 1-6 Purdue team, except this. There was a play that put Oregon up 28-0. The touchdown to Whittington and this was after a terrible interception where Gabriel had a guy open, missed him, and then threw it to somebody who basically there was a defender sitting there waiting for it. The defender was there baking biscuits, okay, just hanging out there, and literally just the ball just fell into his hands. I mean, it was crazy. It was a bad throw, but there are some quarterbacks who would crumble at that. This quarterback didn't. This quarterback stood in there and threw a dime to Whittington. Perfectly thrown ball in the exact right place. Whittington made a great play on it. And the best part is this was a well-defended ball. Purdue's defender, he was on it. But Whittington was able, just great hands, great hand strength there, muscling the ball, not letting Purdue's defender knock it out until it was too late. I was very impressed by Dillon Gabriel's bounce back after that interception. We've seen examples this year of quarterbacks that throw picks and then they just crumble. Davis Warren, lots of picks there, crumbled, okay? But he didn't let that happen to him. So I was very impressed with him. So those are the two games that I focused on. If anybody wants to call in and talk about others, you definitely can. And then I did want my final topic tonight to be the Saturday game and also Oklahoma State, BYU, 14-14 right now. We'll definitely cover that one as well as the game progresses. But Saturday games of interest. Which games are you the most excited about? So we have a graphic. We have a nice little graphic made by our people at the Voice of College Football social media team. And this is top 10 Week 8 matchups. Obviously, number 1 is Georgia, Texas. And then you kind of go down from there. But I want to cover a couple of these at the top. So we can start with Alabama, Tennessee, and talk through that one a little bit. I think that's one definitely worthy of a minute or two. So Kalen DeBoer, this is an interesting quote by him. I've been told that the rivalry with Tennessee is a big deal, and I know it's a big deal. You see it from afar. I won't go into this entire quote. Clearly, sounds like he walked off a turnip truck. It's one of those quotes where you'd like him to not say, I've been told it's a big deal, but just, it's a big deal. Like, I've been told sounds like he was off in the cigar bar and someone just whispered, hey, you got to go deal with this type of situation. I don't really love that. But that I think that's probably nitpicking. But in that game, obviously, Alabama's favored by 2.5. I could see Alabama covering that and winning by 3 to 7 points. Tennessee is a good team. They're not the best team I've seen from Heupel the last couple of years. Obviously, struggled against Florida, had to pull that game out in overtime. Florida is a bad team. You should not have to pull it out in overtime. Bama with Jalen Milroe, I think that they've been playing with their food a lot. So Alabama's had these games where they beat teams like Georgia, and then they go and they lose to somebody like Vandy, and they're playing with their food a lot. And but I do think they play to the level of their opponents. So 30 to I'm thinking like a 34 to 27 type game, Bama. But let me know what you think. And the other game that I think is very interesting is Texas, Georgia. So we have a quote from that one too. And so Kirby Smart had something, or let's see. Oh no, Sark had something to say here. So Sark said, they've recruited great. Georgia's been the standard of college football now for the last 6 or 7 years. I think they've been to, 6 championship games, 3 national championship games. They're going to come ready to play. Absolutely right. Sark knows how to coach speak. Okay? He knows his team is the shit. He knows that. Right? But he's laying back. He's like, Georgia's the best. That's what you do. That's the Nick Saban acolyte I want to see. Love that. Kirby Smart probably saying the exact same thing about Texas. In this game, I have Texas winning. It does look like that Texas is favored by 3.5. I think it might. Georgia may actually do a little bit better than that, maybe a 3-point game. But I do think that Texas is going to pull out the victory here in Austin. Obviously, home field advantage. The Georgia struggled this year. They are not the Georgia that we've seen in previous years. They've struggled against the pass. They give up too many plays. And candidly, I just think it's not quite the Georgia that we remember from previous years. Meanwhile, Texas is firing on all cylinders. They are excellent. And so I think the offense of Georgia might be a problem, but I think this is going to be a really good battle. But I have Texas in this one, which of course makes Michigan's loss even more quality, right? Quality loss. Isn't that what the SEC always does? Quality losses? But I digress. All right, everybody. A couple of things we want to remind everybody of. If you would like a second hour of this show, we're going to take these 2 callers, and I'm going to put the link here. If anybody wants to continue the show for a second hour, a third hour, $100 in super chats and memberships, we'll get that done, and we'll go a second hour, $200 for the third, and we'll keep track of anybody who super chats. So we'll go ahead and encourage people to do that here. And that way, so that your comment or question is shown on screen, because I'm not showing anything except for membership comments and super chats. All right. We've got our first caller, been waiting patiently. You know him. We've got DaRealMVP in the house. I'm very curious about how this one, the thoughts on this one. DaRealMVP. DaReal, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you, John?
Always great to hear from you. I don't get to do these as often as I'd like, so it's always fun to fill in for Mark and chat some ball with you.
Yeah, it's awfully coincidence that the 1 week Ohio State loses is the 1 week he's out of town. Do you think maybe he's in Columbus hosting a funeral for Ohio State's chances of being a 1C for the Big Ten? I think that could be possible.
That could be very possible.
Did you see they changed the rules for Ohio State? Man, that's soft. They did. Changing the rules? That's so soft.
They did. They changed the rules. So I guess we'll see what happens there. But I don't know what's up. I mean, it seems like every time Ohio State loses a game, they've got to go to the NCAA. They've got to try to investigate some stuff, and so it's not exactly the best look. But look, Oregon. Credit to Dan Lanning, because I think every program wants an intense, obsessive coach like Dan Lanning to look through the loophole, like Bill Belichick used to do, right? Look through the loopholes, find the exact scenarios like he did with the 12 men on the field. I applaud it, and there were even a couple of Buckeyes who said that I wish we had a coach that was that obsessive and looking for the loopholes and things like that. So
yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Ryan Day's not an all-world coach like people believe just because he beats up on your Purdue's, Iowa's, Wisconsin's in the world. I mean, that's a cool story, but nobody cares about beating them. They only care about beating Michigan, Oregon, Alabama, Georgia, those level teams. And Ryan Day's a failure in that aspect, but They win 11 games a year, eat a bunch of cupcakes, and it's all good for them. I want to talk to you about some of these games. First off, FSU is not making a bowl because, first off, they're terrible. Second off, they got 6 wins. Third off, they play Notre Dame and Miami, which is going to be beautiful for me to watch because every game FS uses, it's like Christmas every single day. You wish as a kid, that's what it's like watching FSU football. 3 straight turnovers. My goodness. That was beautiful. They benched Brock Glenn and brought some guy's name who's literally, guarantee you, nobody's ever heard of in this chat. Third string, fourth string quarterback. Oh, it was beautiful to see.
Yeah, that was an interesting game, and I agree with you. I think they're headed for 3-9 city, if that. It's tough. I mean, look, on the one hand, I feel for Norvell because imagine that you're the coach of that team, you get denied the playoff because your quarterback got injured. The committee said that's why they denied it. I think it was the right decision from a business perspective to deny them because let's be honest, they would have gotten their butt whooped. And I think we had 2 really exciting matchups in that playoff. But like, think of that coaching that he like that extremely hard coaching job that he had to keep the culture together, to keep players from jumping ship left and right. He didn't quite succeed fully in the offseason, but I was listening to Renegade Report, who hosts our FSU show, and credit to that guy, by the way, George, for standing in the paint every post game and like answering for this crap that we're seeing on the field. Like that guy, you want to talk about tough jobs. He's got a tough job too. But he had to cobble it together. And then, this even knowing all of that, 1 win at that program at this level, I just don't think it's quite good enough. And I think there will be questions. I don't think he's getting fired after going undefeated last season in the regular season, but I do think it could be a scorching hot seat if they put 3 wins on the board at the end of the season. What do you think?
I think 3 wins would be amazing for them. I mean, they're not going to be favored against even Florida, who is horrendous and just a complete dumpster fire of a team, like my team. They're probably not going to be favored against them. I mean, Florida State, you remember Colorado a few years ago? That's what this Florida State reminds me of. The only win Colorado got was against Cal, ironically, and they just looked horrible against everybody else. That's what it reminds me of. Florida State has no life, no hope, and your culture point's a good one because Mike Norvell, what he should have done was rally the troops, say, hey, we're going to play for a quote-unquote national championship game against Georgia. Let's go win it. Instead, what he do? He said, okay, pack your bags, boys, we're done. And they quit, and they've got a quitter mindset as their head coach, and now the team's quit on them. I mean, I don't believe this team has greatly regressed from the Georgia Tech game to this Duke game. Hit the appearance they showed against in Ireland showed up today. They would have won this football game pretty easily, in my opinion.
Yeah, I actually think you're definitely onto something here. I was like, okay, they lost against Georgia Tech, but it was respectable, right? Like it wasn't. I mean, they put up a good fight, and I know Georgia Tech is not a world beater, but it's not like it was a demolishment, right? There were good moments, and I thought, okay, they're probably gonna make a bowl. They're not gonna be a 10-11 win team, but they'll probably win a bowl. But this is rough. This is rough going. And it's not like they've had the easiest row to hoe with they dealt with the Jimbo Fisher stuff, and obviously now you've got Norvell, and it's been a little bit of a roller coaster for those guys. So, not great.
Not great, but I'm enjoying every minute of it because their fans were completely annoying last year, and they deserve every ounce of misery, in my opinion, they're taking because they were acting elitist, saying, well, we're just big brand. Well, we're as big as Ohio State. We're as big as Michigan. How many people you think are in the stands now? Ask me that question. Anyway, we got more important games to go to tomorrow. First off, in your list, I would immediately revoke Notre Dame, Georgia Tech because Haynes Keen's out. So Notre Dame's going to win that game by a ton because Georgia Tech doesn't have the depth to replace somebody that good, and the whole offense in Georgia Tech is centered around him. And larger question for Notre Dame is, with their sharp and soft schedule, and seriously, their two of their three best wins was probably against Army and Navy. Should they even be the playoffs at 11-1? I mean, they're basically a glorified G5 team this year with the schedule they're playing.
Whoa.
I mean, I'm not trolling. I mean, look at what the G5 does. They play two good teams at the beginning of the year, and then nobody else. I mean, look at Notre Dame. Who's they played that's elite? Louisville and USC, and nobody else?
USC, yeah. I mean, I get it. I think Notre Dame needs to join a conference. I've said that repeatedly. Welcome to the Big Ten. Let's just get it over with. You know you're joining the Big Ten at some point. Let's just make it happen. But yeah, 11 wins for Notre Dame. I think it's possible that, like, look, with the 12-team playoff, an 11-win Notre Dame team it becomes possible. Whereas with the 4-team, they have to go undefeated every year, right? Except for 2020 when they were kind of sort of in the ACC that one year, right? So aside from that, like they were locked out unless they won all their games. So I don't love it, but yeah, I could see an 11-win Notre Dame team still getting in potentially.
Yeah, like, I hate
especially
it.
with the branding. You know, I think it would be a branding decision too.
Yes, big brand bias.
Huge brand, alumni all over the place. A lot of money there.
Yeah, their best win by far would be at Texas A&M, who I know they're 5-1, but I still don't fully believe in them. And then you've got this mush of crap, or just mid in the middle. Louisville, USC, Army, Navy. And then after that, it's Purdue's, Northern Illinois, Florida State, Virginia. I mean, just a ton of garbage. I mean, seriously. Have New Mexico State or Liberty. Have Liberty from last year play against that schedule. I believe they get 2-3 wins against those teams. I mean, those teams are horrific. And in my opinion, Notre Dame needs to be penalized massively because they're the ones who set up the non-ACC parts of the schedule. But other than that, there's some other games of the week. I'll talk about your game, John. Are you doing okay? Do you know what a quarterback is, or do we need to educate you about what a quarterback is? Because it's been so long.
Well, you know, I saw good quarterback play from somebody called JJ Goat Carthy, and I thought that he was a quarterback right there. And then you get to this year.
What happened to him in the NFL, John? What happened to him in the NFL?
Well, he got injured, and that does happen sometimes.
Yeah, I know. It is sad what happened to him. It is sad.
Yes, he did light it up in that preseason game, but yes, the Buckeyes are rooting you on right now. He missed the beginning when you shit on the Buckeyes, but that's fair. Yeah. So first of all, I encourage everybody, of course, to tune in tomorrow to Michigan Post Game Live after the game. But I will say, Jack Tuttle clearly was the quarterback that they had thought of when they designed this year's offense. Because if you look at the early games with Davis Warren, aside from the picks, which were really bad, things were humming. You know, people were doing their job. Alex Orji, everything stagnated. He was clearly not the right quarterback for this system. When Jack Tuttle came in, the yards per play immediately doubled. So obviously not, low bar, but still it went from like 2.7 to 5.1 or something like that.
I mean, it's nice when you know like half the option of plays is just completely eliminated. I mean, I feel like that's a significant advantage. I'm still not convinced Alex Orji can throw a football down the field. I still haven't seen no evidence of this at all.
Yeah, I understand why they went with him. Jack Tuttle was still injured. Davis Warren was throwing too many picks. They rolled with it. But now Tuttle was healthy enough. He still wasn't 100%. Clearly, his arm was not there towards the end of that game, right? Against Washington. So with more time to prep, more time to heal, and the bye week. Hopefully, he's gotten enough reps with the ones that he can put together a full game instead of a partial. He put together a solid partial game, and then the second half happened, right? Like things were looking pretty good for a bit there when he was put into the game. They scored a couple of touchdowns. That was pretty good. But at the end of the day, not good enough. And then the rest of the game happened, threw some picks, his arm weakened. And I feel like they had a limit. He only played 40% with the ones. So Alex Orji got 60%. He got 40%. So they probably had exactly what we saw. That's what they prepped for. And then after that, it was kind of like, whatever. You know, it was kind of winging it. And so I think you saw that, and you saw his arm weakening as we went. So I'm really, look, at this point, he seems like the best option. Let's see how it goes against an Illinois team who really, really, really wants to beat Michigan after what happened in 22 and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, if you all lose this game, which I don't know with Michigan, they should beat like Minnesota, they should win by more. USC, I felt like now looking back retroactively, they probably should have won by more. I don't believe USC is nearly as good as, well, I thought they were. But if you lose this game, you're probably looking at a 6-6 season with a loss to Indiana, which I know Indiana's a good team this year, but historically, brand-wise and stuff, we talked about that earlier. That would be pretty embarrassing losing to Indiana. That's something the Ohio State man is going to say. It doesn't matter if Indiana goes 11-1. They're just going to say, you lost to Indiana, you lost to a basketball school, so I'm just letting you mentally prepare for that now.
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm not convinced that Indiana would win.
I'm not either, but they're probably favored.
Indiana, right, you talked about schedules earlier. It was Indiana actually played. You look at their schedule, it's basically nobody. And
right. We'll
they look good. And look, it's still Indiana, so their performance is still remarkable for Indiana. Even keep factoring in the schedule, it's still good. But despite that, I think I'm not convinced Indiana wins that game. I am convinced that Michigan loses at least one of Oregon, Ohio State. I think they're very, very good. And Oregon obviously looked good tonight, even though it was against a one-win team. I really, like I said, I loved what I saw. Dylan Gabriel bouncing back after that interception, throwing that dime exactly where it needed to be to Whittington. I thought that showed that they're going to go far. Michigan's going to have a tough time. It's all just going to come down to what happens tomorrow. Like, does Michigan rally? Does Michigan actually win that game? Not just barely escape, but if they put up like a 2-touchdown victory against this extremely motivated Illinois team and extremely motivated coach who's still sour over 2 years ago, then I think that's something that you can build on. If it's a 1-win squeaker or Illinois wins this game, then you're looking at 6-6. You're looking at a Michigan rebuild, people making business decisions, and let's go for 2025, and let's hope Jaden Davis is ready, or Dave Portnoy puts up $3 million for a quarterback.
I love that confidence in you that even though they're only favored by 3 points currently, or 3.5, you're like, I think Michigan can win by 2 touchdowns, even though their offense is so
okay. All right, I'm saying if that were to happen, then I would think, okay, that's something to really build on, and there's still the playoff hope is still alive. That's all I said. I didn't say they were gonna do it.
Hey, listen, man, all sorts of crazy things can happen if we're just talking in that type of land. Good luck. All I say is good luck scoring 28 points against anybody, man. I mean, seriously, good luck. You're going to need it, man. I'm sorry, but
my prediction is 20. We talked to Sonny Varma at obviously Locked On Illini. He was on the show Tuesday night, and I gave my prediction 21-17 Michigan. I think TJ was like 24-17 or something like that, and then obviously Sonny picked Illinois to win.
I'll go 17-14 Michigan. I just can't see y'all
Okay.
losing
Okay.
to Illinois. Just can't see it.
I hope not. I hope not.
It's very possible, but I'm just letting you know it's very possible.
Yeah.
It's like a 55-45 type game, in my opinion. But there's a lot of great games on tomorrow. Everybody seems, for the first time in a few years, just to completely write off Georgia. I don't see anybody scoring 30 points, but unless there's like a few weird turnovers, pick sixes, blocked field goals. Anyway, going back to the SEC game of the week, Georgia to Texas.
Yes.
Everybody was completely writing off Georgia. I remember just like 2 years ago when they won back-to-back national championships, they still got Kirby Smart, probably the best coach. I remembered against Alabama, they scored like a bajillion points in the second half. I remember Georgia's defense still being pretty good. They still have Carson Beck, who's a good quarterback. Texas, I mean, you look at their schedule, it's not like they played, Ohio State and Alabama every week. I mean, their schedule's been pretty soft, so it wouldn't shock me if Georgia win this game, and I think Georgia has more to prove in this game, so I think Georgia will beat Texas tomorrow.
Wow. Okay. I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, I only picked. I was thinking like a 3-point Texas win, or at most a touchdown. This is a tough. I mean, look, it's in Austin. Saturday night, that's a tough environment for any opposing, even Georgia. That's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy to do your cadences, to do your just as a quarterback to communicate in that situation is not going to be the easiest thing in the world. And also, look, I mean, Georgia's not, like I said, Georgia's not 21 Georgia, right? They're not 22 Georgia. They are a team that's they're struggling in pass defense. And let's face it, the offense hasn't looked as good, in my opinion, with Bobo versus Monken. I think Monken was an underrated OC. He put everybody in the right positions, and when he left, even though they still did pretty. I mean, look, they still are one of the best teams in the country. We're picking nits here, but. Yeah, I see that Sark. I just see Sark being able to scheme and just win this game due to home field advantage. But look, it's gonna be fun to watch. And whoever it's gonna be a fun one. But so we do have 3 other callers. So what I'm gonna ask you for, DaReal, is kind of a final thought or a last game you want to talk about. And then we'll get to our other callers.
I'll just go quickly over a few highlights. Alabama should beat Tennessee. Tennessee's got no offense, no quarterback. Worst quarterback situation in the SEC. Kentucky, Florida. Good luck to either one of those teams who loses. They're both terrible. Only reason I mention is because I'm a Kentucky fan and we're terrible. Louisville, I'm going to have them beating Miami tomorrow as the upset of the week. Louisville opened as a 1-point favorite, and yet the line is sharply moved away from them. So Vegas sees something. I'm going to ride that train. And Indiana is going to move to 7-0 and firmly be in the playoff hunt. Let's make Indiana in the playoffs happen, okay? Let's have an Indiana versus Army football game in the playoffs. Wouldn't that be lovely to see?
That would be fun. I would love that. Triple option versus Signetti, just smash mouth. I love it, man. I love it.
Thanks for being a guest host, John. Good talking to you.
Great talking to you too, DaReal. All right, next up, and keep in mind, we have 3 more callers, and that's all we're taking unless we get $100. So get the super chats coming, get the memberships coming. All right, here we go. LBC Robby in the house. How we doing?
Johnny, how are you, buddy?
Life is good. Filling in. I'm not the voice of college football, but you know what? It's fun to fill in every now and then.
Johnny, you're doing great, and I'm gonna have to step it up because it's hard to follow the real those hot. I love the Vegas action on the thing pick. What a call. The real. Shit, I forgot the last fucking numbers of it. So, oh well.
DaRealMVP.
Johnny, it's
Yes.
such a state of college football right now, and I think it's great. I know you guys know me from the SC channel, and yes,
Yeah.
I am SC alum and fan, most importantly, and technically former player, technically, but but I'm not a USC homer, and do you understand the difference? And that's why Tim and them get a problem with me sometimes. And I'm not afraid to call things like I
Well,
I don't know. I mean, I know what
I have a question for you, because Trojan just asked. We have another USC fan in the comments right now, asking me if I'm going to the USC game at Maryland.
I saw that.
The answer is no, because I have to watch the Michigan game, which is at the same time, and then host a maybe 4 to 6 hour post game show after.
I didn't know you. I didn't know you were in the 202.
Yeah. Northern Virginia now for the last month or so.
Good for you, man. Oh well, in that 373. Or wait, no, never mind. I work nationally. I've traveled everywhere, and that's one of the reasons I think I can speak a little bit about this stuff more than most people. I have been to Florida State. I have been to the Orange Bowl. I was at the Desmond Howard as a 8th grader, and my dad owned GM dealerships, and it was a special promotion that week, and we all went back to Detroit and this thing. I was born in Detroit. I've been to Colorado. I've been to Seattle. I've been to Texas, Austin. I've been to Bama. I've been to Auburn. I've been there. I am a college football fan.
Okay.
At the most of it. And as of this thing, if you want me to share it, as of right now, I am 68% against the spread in college football on my CBS Plus that wins at me absolutely nothing. I'm like in 2000 something place, but by Vegas standards, I thought that was pretty good.
Hey, listen, anytime you can win one over Vegas, that's always great. I was just in Vegas last week and came out profitable. I was at the Luxor.
Nice.
For a conference, and I went over my favorite poker room is at the MGM Grand, and I went there and actually won some money. So that was exciting. Well,
you're smarter than the rest of those idiots, so that's the thing.
Anytime you can even have a dollar in the green, it's a good day.
As I said, I don't know what to think. People think us from LA or I don't know, like Vegas, it's like the same thing, but it's well, I mean, all of us have been there multiple times. It's about a 4-hour drive or an hour flight, which is the way I prefer it. And it's just kind of 90% of our friends that we know are people who live there are from here, and da 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 da. So it's that Hilton vacations place though is where I've been staying at, and you would think that's like lame in Vegas, but you should see this place, dude. Wow.
Yeah. Let me ask you, just because I know we got some other callers. Let me ask you, unless you had a different topic about USC Maryland, what do you think is going to happen in that game?
I think it's there. Listen, there's a lot of panic and hostile whatever things about the past, but the bottom line is the past 3 games could have gone either way. And they're really the bottom line was the issues we thought at the beginning of the season are issues that are bad. The tackles are horrific. Bottom line, and we just lost our 2 best defensive players. There's really not much else to say except for that. And the thing I well, the one thing I will say about that is this, and I'd rather talk about the national picture tomorrow, Johnny, if that's okay. I was one of the people who saw the LSU game and said, man, I don't think LSU is as good as everybody is as we thought. And I don't know about what I saw as why everybody else was going crazy. And as of this way right now, that looks just about right on point. So
LSU, in my opinion, I do not have a high opinion of Brian Kelly. I never have. I think he's overrated. Has he cobbled together a decent season this year? Sure, so far, but I just have never had a super high opinion. He's never really been able, despite all of his years of coaching, to hit that top echelon, even at LSU with all of the talent he has. With a Heisman Trophy winner, he went 9-3. So I just don't think he's very good. I think he's going to get fired in a year or two because LSU fires their coaches if they're not winning titles, if they're not consistently in the playoff.
He is the best coach they've had in a while. I mean, Les Miles, it speaks for itself, and he lasted there 7 years. So and LSU will never not have talent, and I couldn't agree with you more. Kelly, I hear you there, but I don't think he's a horrible coach.
No, I don't think he's horrible.
I mean, besides for getting a kid killed with the wind in Notre Dame, he actually did a pretty good job. I mean, especially when you consider the cycling of staffs he did, the recruiting, and look, let's face it, Stanford and Notre Dame is very hard to win at, and he did. And I think the thing of him going to LSU was, look, I cannot win with those standards. Go, let me play at the field like everybody else has, and I'll do it. And it ain't happening. You 100% right. Johnny on the money again. Man, let's go around. What you guys know, I was at Steve Sarkisian's slumber party in 7th grade in Torrance.
Oh, I think I remember you saying that.
I've known Steve since 1984.
Wow. We have somebody here, folks, who went to Sark's 7th grade slumber party.
Sorry, not 7th, 5th grade. Fifth grade. Back when we had those things. Yeah.
5th grade,
and the highlight was we had a bootleg copy, double taped over a VHS of Top Gun. That was and Aliens. That was on to watch on VHS. That was the highlight of the night. Yeah.
All right.
I'm killing my age here.
Any other games you wanted to touch on before we let you go?
Besides the Georgia Texas thing, which I listen, I'm very happy for Steve. I never approached while he was here at Washington because I felt that'd be improper. Last time I talked to him when he was the actual quarterback coach for the Raiders. The other thing, the national landscape tomorrow, though, I think we're going to see a lot of things. And Johnny, like I said, remember, I was born in Detroit. I grew up a Michigan fan. And my thing with you is John, you guys didn't think you were going to repeat this year, did you? I mean, because no one else did. And you don't have a quarterback to throw, but you still have the best defense in the nation, and it's going. It's going about how I thought it would go. Indiana is that I think that's still a reach, and and trust me, I was the hugest Indiana fan with Michael Penix during the COVID times, and maybe it was because I was starved for football for so long, or was anything on TV at that time. But I watched a ton of Michael Penix in Indiana, and quite frankly, Brock Purdy at Iowa State, and I always said, "Hey, dude, these kids can play, man. Why are you not paying attention? Because they're at small schools." So I I I haven't seen that quite in this Indiana team. And listen, they can say what they want about the Michigan having a down, whatever. The bottom line is Michigan still has 4 first rounders playing tomorrow and 12 overall draft picks. And what I would like to remind everybody who's watching this, who's a college football fan and who cares about it, I want you to pay attention to how it really works. How many offensive and defensive linemen are NFL pickable or draftable next year? As of right now, Alabama and Georgia has about 50% of those players. Ohio State and Michigan have about 20. Texas has maybe 15 or so. Then everybody else has, 5 or 6 here or there. This is still a game where the bigger man matters and the thing matters. And it's one up front. And until that breaks, you're still going to, and I think it's starting to break. I really do. And it's going to trample over. Michigan started that last year. But it is still going to be another 2-3 years before Georgia, Alabama are not on the upscale of this thing on the way. And that's just the way it is. And I think bad quarterback play might put Georgia out this year, but that doesn't mean they still don't have those guys.
Quick update. Oklahoma State is at 21. BYU is 14. Alan Bowman driving Oklahoma State, in case people are interested in that game that's happening right now.
Anyone buying BYU, by the way?
I mean, I think they're all right. I don't think they're.
Hey, listen, I picked Oklahoma State to win the conference. Well, sorry, I picked Utah to win the conference, but I picked Oklahoma State to play them in the end. So obviously, I haven't. As again, the Big 12, I can't figure it out. Just like always.
All right, Rob, you got a final thought for us?
I do. I absolutely do. I want every one of you to come and support Mark's channel. Come support my man Johnny. Come support my homeboy Tim, and singing all the other people on this channel and their own channels. It is such a great time. It is such a great community. These guys are such great people. You have no idea the love I felt when I needed it the most from this community. You will not be sorry. If you love college football, please come join us. I love you, Johnny.
Appreciate you, Rob. Thanks for calling in. All right. Okay. Everybody, we have one more call that was in the queue prior to me saying, hey, we're cutting it off in an hour. That was Keith. Sean, I'm sure you'll be on tomorrow night for the panel. So we'll take Keith. If you want a second hour, you want to hear from Sean, you want to hear from others, $100. Let's go. Otherwise, Keith is the last call. We do want to encourage everybody to hit that like button, subscribe to the Voice of College Football. As you know, this is not Mark Rogers tonight. It's me, John Diadamo. You can follow me at John Diadamo on X. And we're talking about the games that we just saw tonight. We're also talking about the big matchups tomorrow. And we've got a friend of the network, Michigan man, member of the Connor Stallions espionage team and the Jack Tuttle fan club, Keith Rebar, in the house. Keith, I'm glad you were able to find your way over to this side and call in just like you do every week on the Michigan channel. How you doing, Keith?
I'm doing good, John. Yeah, let me say, just like Pat Mahomes is the mini GOAT, you are the mini voice of college football, John.
Well, that is very kind of you, Keith. I appreciate that a lot. Mark hit me up. He said he was going out of town. He said, can you fill in tonight, and I said, you know what? I got you. You know, when the guy who single-handedly put you on the air asks you for a favor, you say, absolutely, let's make it happen. Because without Mark, I'm not on the air at all. I'm off doing something else tonight and off doing something else in general. But thanks to Mark Rogers, I'm here and on the Michigan channel twice a week. So what's up, Keith? What do you got for us?
Has anybody talked about Oregon yet tonight?
Yeah, so we that was one of our first topics in the beginning, but I would love to talk about it with you. The big takeaway that I had from the game, Keith, that I thought was worth mentioning, aside from that, I think it's an absolutely abysmal coaching job by Ryan Walters. I think not getting a kicker that can kick a 36-yarder. Not having an answer for Hudson. I think the only hope that they had was like Hudson Card being Superman. I think that was that they're pinning the whole season on that. That's what it feels like. Is like Card is like he was supposed to be Superman, and then hope and dreams, and let's get to 6 or 7 or 8 wins or whatever. That felt like the ceiling for them. It's really a shame because 2 years ago with Braum, they were in the Big Ten championship. They gave Michigan a real game, and it's just a shame to see what happened. But on the Oregon side, I loved what I saw. And what you saw were components that you need to make a playoff run, right? Not only did they not sleep the first 3 quarters like some teams would do in this situation, some teams would just coast and then put it on in the fourth quarter, win the game by 7, 10 points. They didn't do that. All game, they fought. They played their football. They didn't do anything too fancy. Lots of toss plays, some curl routes, nothing crazy. A couple of like option plays. But for the most part, the one thing that I loved was that after that pick that Dylan Gabriel threw, which admittedly was a bad pick, right? There's a guy wide open, just a little bit further down. He throws to him. That's a touchdown. But he comes back. Some quarterbacks can't do this. He rallies. He throws a dart to Whittington. And then Whittington makes an incredible play against a well-defended ball. I mean, that ball, it's not like he was wide open. That ball was well-defended. Whittington comes out with that ball and the strong hands to be able to keep it away from the defender. That was impressive. And that moment, to me, Keith, showed that they're going to make a pretty strong playoff run, I think. What do you think about that?
I say they really impressed me tonight. I believe Dylan Gabriel was something like 21 for 25. Mm-hmm. He's certainly a solid quarterback. I give him that. On that interception, that was so close to being completed. It did hit his receivers in the hands, but just in the fingertips, and then fell to the safety that was back off the coverage. So, those are tough breaks. That's not really a bad pass. That happens in football. I won't hold that one against them too much. The one thing about the open receiver, I heard the announcer say that on that play too. If you look at the all 22 in the coverage, though, you got to look at when that coverage breaks off when the ball is released by the quarterback. That happens a lot on those plays. The safety's really on that route until the ball is released. Then he breaks towards the ball. And when it's a 30-plus yard throw, that guy looks like he's wide open. I bet you when the defensive backfield coach for Purdue looks at that, they're not gonna hit that guy too hard. We'll see when that all comes out in the wash.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think Devin Gardner had we always love when Devin Gardner's calling games, right? Us Michigan people, right? But
right,
he did mention that, and I saw it too, but he pointed out a second time that, that there was that receiver, was open there. But my overall point was, regardless of how that all went down, like, I really liked what I saw from Dillon Gabriel to bounce back. His attitude has impressed me all season. I think he's just been, look, it didn't start pretty, right? It didn't start pretty. There were some ugly wins there in the beginning, and but I'm impressed by what I saw with him, and I'd say he's a Heisman contender. I don't know if he'll win it, but I think he's got to be in that conversation to go to New York.
John, how close do you think Purdue is to Vandy?
Oh, not close at all. I think Purdue is one of the most abysmal teams in the whole in all of college football right now.
And Vandy isn't?
I think Vandy put together enough to beat Alabama. Their option, Alabama. Now, I think that was more that Alabama's defensive coordinator didn't properly prepare that defense for the option, but they still beat a team that had way more talent than they did, and that was impressive. Purdue's done nothing, so I mean, I have to give it to Vandy.
I agree. I grant you that Purdue has done nothing, and I'm just not sure that Vandy's not a blind pig, and Alabama wasn't an acorn that day. Vandy, I think, lost to one or two FCS teams already this year. So we'll see how Vandy goes on. But and Vandy did give somebody else a run. But the good news is, for Oregon fans, Oregon is not Alabama. They didn't have a major let up and lose to an inferior team after their big win. So I give them credit for that. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah. I mean, this, like I said, I was talking with our friend Erica Goldberg, because she was asking me, hey, how do you think Oregon's going to do? And I said, well, one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to blow them out, or it's going to be a sleeping game because of what happened with Ohio State. And they sleep through 3/4 of the game, and then they turn it on in the fourth quarter to win by 7 to 10 points. I thought those were the two scenarios. I thought there was no scenario that Purdue wins. And the first one happened, right? It blew them out.
Yeah. And I agree with you. The same thing is, I didn't see any way Purdue could win. Just the question, would they be close? And so, yeah. All right, I'd like to move on to Michigan. And when Mark does this show, the good thing is when DaReal comes on, he takes one of us Michigan. If Moose or Madman is on, or we get to go on with DaReal, and we get to give it back and forth a little bit. And I would have just said to him, when he said Michigan is looking at a 6-6 season, I would ask him, what is the percent Michigan is going to go 6-6?
I don't look. I mean, I think there is absolutely a possibility Michigan goes 6-6. That's why I didn't really have a problem with him saying that. This is a rough, like, we need to see what happens tomorrow. Well, or I guess today technically now. Because if Michigan, like I said with DaReal, if Michigan pulls out a solid victory and Jack Tuttle's able to lead that offense against a team that is extremely motivated to beat them, then I think there's still a hope for the playoff, and I think there's still a hope for 8-9 wins. If it's Illinois wins or Michigan barely squeaks it out, then yeah, 6 or 7 is absolutely in the cards. It's just we just got to be honest here.
If Michigan loses, we would have 3 already, and
Mm-hmm.
and then you would say Oregon and Ohio State look pretty
Mm-hmm.
dim. Yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
could do that. But
MSU and MSU could win. Indiana could win.
I would just love to throw back at DaReal his famous 1% though. And I think there's
Oh,
a
we did.
1%.
We did. Trust me. When we like that was very enjoyable after the Natty. And everybody was like, "Hey, how about that 1%
I know.
prediction there?"
I was one of those that was
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah. So yeah, and I'm not sure we can't score 28 points in the run game alone tomorrow. The weakness of Illinois is their run defense. This comes from their own camp.
Mm,
And the strength of Michigan is our run game. That comes
right.
from our camp. The consistent running of Mullins, and the breakaway running of Edwards, I can easily see 4 touchdowns between the two in there to get to that 28 that you guys are saying so elusive for Michigan this year.
First of all, if Donovan Edwards is in the game in the backfield as the runner at any point, I'm going to be unhappy. I think it needs to be Kalel Mullings. I am tired of seeing Donovan Edwards in there. It's not working aside from the one time. And then that one time they were like, oh, it's working now. Let's put him in half the time, even though it's obvious that Kalel Mullings is the best option for that position, right? At that place. Donovan Edwards is the best option for a slot, for a perimeter. We've said this on the show a million times. I know you've heard it, but like my frustration, Keith, is that there are 2 players on the offense that are obviously the best on the team. Kalel Mullings and Colston Loveland. Why the hell aren't they getting like 90% of the work? Until it doesn't work anymore, right? Look at last year. What happened last year? Sharon Moore calls 32 run plays against Penn State. It was working. They couldn't stop it. Yes, I know there was technically an RPO and JJ called his own number and there was a pass that got called back. But they stuck to what was working and pounded it and pounded Penn State into submission. What happens this year? Oh, Kalel Mullings is working again. Let's put in Donovan Edwards and let's make sure his feelings don't get hurt. And let's make sure that Jack Tuttle's throwing like a bazillion times when his arm's not 100% and he was just injured. Like the decisions that it just don't make sense to me, Keith. And all I'm asking is to go back to the mentality of go to what's working. What's working is Kalel Mullings in the run and Colston Loveland in the short pass game. Pound that until it doesn't work anymore. That's all. That's my point.
Right. Did you see the box score from last game against Washington?
Off and on, yeah.
Yeah. Donovan Edwards and Kalel Mullings both got 14 carries.
Yeah.
I thought actually Donovan Edwards got a few more, but whatever I saw, it was a week and a half ago. So
14. Yeah. And Donovan did have 95 and a touchdown in that, and I grant you that.
And Mullings had 49 and no touchdowns.
Yes, the one time that is the case all season. Yes.
Yes, that's right. It's only one season, but it's like I told TJ on Thursday. I think Donovan's a better running back in a backfield where we have a credible threat of a forward pass. When the going gets tough, Donovan does not perform as well. Folds is a tough word, does not perform as well. Because I've seen him running tough on the inside, but he's just not as strong as Mullings is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but when the play opens up, when Tuttle got in there, they drop that ninth, eighth, seventh, sometimes even sixth guy out of the box, and they spread everybody out. That's where Donovan Edwards excels. Is when the defense thins out, he's got the explosiveness to cut through open spaces better than Mullings, and that's how I think we got a 2-to-1 advantage in yards last week, because Tuttle came in. Then they saw that Edwards was more productive than Mullings was, and so obviously, if we want to come back and win the game, you go with the guy that's more productive.
Yeah, I think that there was too much stock put in one big play, and I think that if Kalel, based on the performance the last couple of games, I think very easily could have had a breakthrough there, and Donovan could have been used in the perimeter and could have been used in a 2 running back set more. We did see it a little bit. I think we're seeing it like once or twice a game. They're listening to the voice of college football and they're putting them in together. And yes, it confuses the defense. You don't know what they're doing.
And right? I'm not opposed to putting Donovan in motion and getting him out into the slot to start and getting him out in the routes to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's that Donovan Edwards is a real weapon on offense, and I give him that. But if we take the 51-yard breakaway run that he got for a touchdown, you would have Donovan Edwards with 14 for 44, or 13 for 44, and Mullings 14 for 49. Basically the same game.
Yeah.
So they're equally as productive there, but obviously we don't take the best plays away from anybody. And so we say Donovan's clearly had a better game than Mullings last week, given the same number of opportunities. So this isn't me speaking. This was Al Borges on the web show, the Sam Webb show. He said, why wouldn't you want to keep a weapon like Donovan Edwards in the game, so that in these games, when the other team least expects it, this guy's going to rip off a 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown run?
Al Borges does know his offense sometimes, although when he was actually calling the offenses, they were some of the worst in college football. But I would say that he knows his plays, and I watched some of those too. But I wouldn't exactly take what Al Borges says about personnel management, as gospel all the time. But
on this point, can you accept this point? That we want to keep them in the fold so that one day we're going to get this big run from them when we really need it.
Define in the fold. Is it like 2 times a game or 14, 15? 2 times a game I'm cool with. 14, 15 I'm not cool with.
I say 15 to 20 for each of them.
No.
Yeah. Well,
not for me. It's a free country though, Keith.
That's right.
So, but no, I just don't think he's up for it.
Coordinator, head
correct.
Coach
Absolutely.
So, yeah, but that's my takeaway, anyways. I think we can, and I think we can comfortably win this game. I think we will win this game by double digits. We have to win this game, or our season will basically be over. Right now, everything is in our hands. If we lose the second conference game, half of our goals are out of our hands at that point. We need help somewhere.
Yep. This is a must-win game.
We have 4 unbeatens in the conference right now.
Mhm.
That's a lot of unbeatens in the conference, and we have Ohio State, probably the best team, with 1. So us getting to the playoffs, we lose 1 more, we're out for sure. We lose to Ohio State or Oregon, we're out of the playoffs for sure,
Yeah.
because we're not going to finish in the top 4 in the Big Ten. And if you're not in the top 3 of the Big Ten, you're not assured a playoff spot.
Yeah, I think you have to, like, in order for any hope of the playoff to remain alive, this is an absolute must-win game, because there is absolutely I don't think there's any universe in which Michigan loses to Illinois and then beats everybody left. I don't even think Sam Webb or the most sunshiny people would try to say that.
Right.
I think you got to win this game, and Michigan's got to win it. I think they will win it because I think they know that the season's on the line. I think that they'll call a game accordingly, like it's a big game, because it is a big game. This is your season, right? So every game from here on out has to be treated as a big game because you can't lose a single one.
That's right. That's right. We have to go 1-0 6 weeks in a row.
There's only a tiny, like, I will say, I do think that Michigan at 9-3 could get in. I do think so because of the strength of schedule, and that's such a big component of the College Football Playoff Committee's criteria is strength of schedule. We remember that from the years we were like not sure we were getting in because of the schedule and had to win every single game last year. So I think that's part of it. But
yes, and we could possibly, and just like an SEC team could possibly get in with a 9-3 record, because if we're 9-3 at the end of the year, we either beat Oregon or Ohio State.
Yeah,
and that's gonna look awful good on the resume. A loss at Texas, in the eyes of the playoff committee, is not going to hurt us that much.
No, the Washington loss will.
The Washington loss will. I think Washington is out of the rankings already, aren't they?
Yeah. So I would say, look, I think the best hope is probably, it's tough because before I was saying the best hope is probably beating Oregon, and then Ohio State I've been saying is a loss pretty much since we started to see what this team actually was game 1. But it's a tough one because Oregon's looking better and better every week, and Ohio State dropped one. Their secondary looks pretty soft. And it could look, I mean, Ohio State has a mental Michigan problem right now. Michigan has beat their teeth in 3 years in a row. It was closer this last one. But they have a mental block with Michigan, 3 losses in a row. And meanwhile, Oregon doesn't have that problem. Dan Lanning just showed that he could win an enormous game. So I don't feel good about either of those, but I feel like Oregon could be, could be the loss, and Ohio State could be the win. It could go either way. But either way, I'm not really like, you got to win this game to stay alive, and then we'll see.
Right, and then we can just go on to the next week. We got to take Michigan State next week, right? If we miss against Michigan State, we're done then too. Yeah. The concerning thing that Mark and the other Bucknuts need to worry about is they gave up 497, let's just say 500 yards to Oregon. So do they have a soft defense again, or is Oregon that explosive on offense? We're going to find out between now and the Michigan game whether they have a soft defense or not. Last time they gave up 600 yards to Oregon, they gave up 600 yards to two other teams, two other Big Ten teams during the season. And then when we faced them in 21, Hassan Haskins ran for 5 touchdowns, remember?
Yep.
And that's when Gaddis called their defense soft.
Yeah.
Yep. Gaddis is the one that started that. It looks like they've got a pretty soft defense again, but we'll see. If they have another game or two where they give up 500 yards, they've got a pretty soft defense.
Absolutely. All right, Keith, any final thoughts for us?
Just go blue, 1-0, one game at a time. It's the only way we can do it these days.
There you go. All right, Keith. Well, we'll see you tomorrow for Michigan post game.
All right, we'll do that.
All right, later, Keith.
Later.
That's right. I should have said go blue. Damn it. But anyway, no. David left DaReal. David's not on anymore. He popped out. But yeah. So thank you to Jackson Johnson, who gifted a Voice of College Football membership to Trojan Fight. So Trojan Fight, congratulations on your 30 days of Voice of College Football membership. Unfortunately, because we fell $97 short, we're not going another hour. So that was the last call tonight. Anybody who was not able to call in tonight, tomorrow we will be doing the Michigan post-game live that you can call into. Sure, there will be other call-in shows, and then Sunday night we will be doing the College Football After Dark show as well for those who were not able to call in tonight. But we go every hour for $100, and we didn't hit it. That's totally fine. It was a fun hour and change. What I do recommend everybody do is tomorrow, if you want to check out our my content, so I host 2 shows on the Michigan channel here at the Voice of College Football, and this is one of them. Tomorrow is Michigan-Illinois post-game live. We'll be going live right after the game. Same exact format here with the you unlock a second hour, third hour with donations, and we've been going 4, 5, 6 hours. So join the party. It's going to be over on the Michigan channel with myself and TJ Ronan, who you guys know if you've been following the Michigan channel. So with that said, see, we got a couple of comments here. Yes, so College Football After Dark is another opportunity to call in. What about the regular call-in show? This was a call-in show. Mark is not here this weekend, so we'll have guest hosts where we can. Obviously, I can't do tomorrow because I'm going to be over on the Michigan channel doing that one. So we may have another Mark replacement tomorrow night and Sunday morning. We'll see. But I do not know I don't know, Trojan, about the USC channel. I know that they did a call-in show earlier in the week, so maybe that was it. But yeah, so with all that said, I want to thank everybody for being on. And yes, that's the other thing. You do have to be a Patreon member or a YouTube member to participate in the After Dark show. That is true. Thank you, Sean, for mentioning that. We do want to remind everybody before we go that Mark wrote a book. It's called Undisputed National Champions. So check that out. It's on Amazon.com. And go ahead and get that now. You can get it on your paperback. You can get it on your Kindle. I just ordered mine and should be coming soon. So very excited about that. So go ahead and get your copy of Disputed National Champions with Mark Rogers. Going to be a great read. And thank you, Jackson, for putting that link in there. Really appreciate that. We also want to encourage everybody to go ahead and sign up for Voice of College Football membership or Voice of College Football bets, and we'll have a commercial there and all of that good stuff. And with that said, that's it for me tonight. My name is John D'Adamo. Again, you can catch me on the Tuesday night show, Michigan Wolverines Live, Michigan channel, and Michigan Postgame Live on Saturdays. And last but not least, we've got a message from Mark Rogers himself on Voice of College Football bets. Night, everybody, and we'll see you soon. And go blue for those who are Michigan fans.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.